You talk, again, we're talking about all these similarities. Here's the thing you got in the book. Encouraging that kind of over-the-top display of affection is the complete opposite of how you should present yourself to an unfamiliar pup or dog. You are the one who is making the decision. You are the one in charge, and how you carry yourself into the situation and what signals your body language sends are something that any dog will recognize and decode immediately. Do you want to concede the position of power in that relationship immediately? Absolutely not. And again, this is the same thing as a leader. Now, this doesn't mean, and you point this out in the book, this doesn't mean that you dominate. This doesn't mean that you come in and you're overly aggressive. And I talk about that all the time with being a leader. This doesn't mean that you come in and you're barking orders at people, because that doesn't work either. So you got to find that balance, just like you do with humans.
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple things with that. Again, with dogs, especially because it's so simplified. That element is reduced to a very primal nature. So when you have a dog that truly is dominant, if you display that, guess what? You're getting in a fight. If you have a dog that's not that way and you display that, what happens? The dog is scared. When the dog is scared of you, no different than if you have a child that's at the third grade level. When they walk into a classroom, or they're sitting in the classroom and the teacher walks in and they blow their anal glands, because they're getting ready to get whipped with rulers and electrocuted or God knows what else, they're not going to learn anything. On the transverse, if when you walk in, they're throwing spit wads and playing tag and ignore you entirely, they're not going to learn anything there either. So just like in all walks of life, there's balance. But what it is it's exactly that. It's maintaining a level of emotional stability, a calm demeanor, and a rested but calculated mind in terms of how you interact with that animal. And it's not hard at all. There's two videos that I in my online thing called Be the Man. Be the Man Part 1 and Be the Man Part 2, where I do exactly that. I don't say really a word in essence to two different dogs, both very strong, very dominant dogs, that their level of prey drive for a toy, a ball, a tug, what have you, is such that if I have it, they just they start shaking and barking and bouncing, and they'll try to take it from me, even though they're both personal dogs of mine in the past. Their drive is so overblown and overdriven that it overrides everything common sense wise, and you actually can't use that to train them because it's so overdriven. But
so some people are all excited about prey drive, but you can have too much prey drive if you're not balanced.
I would say that I would say no. There's no such thing, in my opinion. For the dogs I work with, I would say there's no such thing as too much. There is too much to do certain types of training with it. If I'm trying to teach obedience, focus, stuff like that, no, I won't use balls and toys like that because it is too much. I'll use food or body language. Now, when it comes to controlling impulse and things like that, yeah, absolutely. But it's after I've done enough repetitions to where it transfers from being a decision to a reaction. No different.
But you can end up with a dog that's his prey drive is so high that you can't take him to the park and trust that he's going to, or can you train it out of him?
You can control it. You can cap that drive by reinforcing it. So think of it this way, and this is the more drive and lack of impulse control that dogs have, the more energy, etc. All the things that typically wind dogs up in shelters, all of those components are something that can absolutely be controlled. But the thing to remember is that think about the first fist fight you were ever in, or even if it happens now, think about where your mind is at. It's at a very elevated state. Mm-hmm. Just like when you see an amateur fighter, the first couple fights, they're swinging for the fences, they blow their wad, whereas you see a guy that's calculated, that's been doing it a while, he knows how to control that. That's what, in essence, what you're teaching the dog, but you have to do it. They can't rationalize that. The way you do it is the exact same, though, is that you're putting them through so many repetitions, no different than, think about the very first time you were on your primary and you pull the trigger and nothing happened. You had to think, okay, I'm going to put it down, it's trigger control, and you're doing all the things in your head. At a certain point, that becomes a reaction. Right. When that becomes a reaction, then you're trained. Same thing with the dog, is that you've got to do those repetitions using things to reinforce it. If the dog is in that state of mind, because the key component is you got to do it when they're not in that state of mind. To be able to control them when they're in that state of mind, you have to build that foundation first. You can't teach a fighter how to be composed by doing real matches. That comes in training. And so the parallel again is exact. is that you've got to use a classroom. And what I do, I use a 40 by 40 classroom where I use a clicker, food, treats, affection, body language, and I teach and shape all these behaviors that I'm trying to teach until it becomes a reaction, and then I just slowly start to introduce distractions and graduate them K through 12. Until they're doctors, of going out, and some of the videos I have of some of the dogs I've worked with, and one of them is a black German Shepherd. I actually just sold him to a big Metroplex SWAT team, but I could take him through Walmart off leash. I could take him to parks where kids are playing soccer around him, and this is a dog that even if I have a ball, he'll bite through my hand to get to it. And I could get to where, without using any punishment, without using any compulsion, just by doing shaping and reinforcing and using that A plus B equals C over and over until it became a conditioned response, and now the dog works on autopilot. But it's like your name. When somebody says Jocko, you don't have to think about responding. You've heard it enough times to where you do that. Same exact principle. But.